David Coleman Headley, the rogue US spy turned Lashkar terrorist, planner of 26/11 terror attacks. He was pardoned by an Indian court. He no longer faces charges of terrorism against him by India. The Indian prosecution trying other 26/11 terrorists says he asked for a pardon and was granted it because it's believed Headley's testimonies can lead them to winning bigger battles. Some may even argue that pardoning him is irrelevant as he's already serving out a 35-year sentence in a US prison after being found guilty of terrorism and conspiracy by planning these attacks in Denmark and India. But was this expected? What kind of message does it send out to those who survived 26/11 and the families of those who didn't? Was it a decision approved by the centre? Many questions. Are there enough answers? Well, to join me as we discuss this tonight, from the BJP, we have with us Nalin Kohli. From the Congress, we have in the studio Ajay Kumar joining us. We also have from Pakistan, we have Javed Iqbal, former armed forces officer from Pakistan joining us. We have former diplomat in Delhi, Vivek Karchu, and Praveen Swami, senior journalist who's been tracking the 26/11 investigations as well throughout. Nalin Kohli, I want to actually open this by asking you if you could tell me this decision to pardon. Ujjwal Nikam says it was taken, pretty much with a half-an-hour recess in the court. But was it something that negotiators had talked about when Headley's testimony had been set for the 10th of December?
Well, I can't really answer that because I don't have the information. I'll have to check on that specifically if you wish to know. However, as a general principle, I think 26/11 has to be seen from multiple perspectives. It's a horrendous terrorist attack. A number of people lost their lives. This movement for justice has been thwarted because there's a cross-border element with Pakistan involved. That's been a sticking point in our relationship with it. The testimony of Mr. Headley has been pretty important to it because David Headley was the one who pointed out about the Lashkar's involvement, and it goes back right to the Ishrat Jahan case in 2004. So there are multiple aspects to it. So if the prosecution felt, and once the court has given its approval, that means yes, it's legally tenable and that it is going to help take the thing forward, it has to be seen as a welcome step.
Okay, Ajay Kumar, I'm going to ask you to react to that welcome step because, there is definitely a school of thought that says, is it really any point in pursuing a conviction for David Headley over here? 35 years he's serving in a US prison. He's pled guilty on those charges. This is going to help the prosecution really firm up its case in India.
No, from that perspective, definitely. If you look at NIS report in 2010, followed by Rana's trial in 2013, getting Headley would at least be able to further on strengthen our case against the people from the Pakistani establishment, whether it's the ISI, whether it is Abu Jindal, who is right now in prison. And it's a moot question because he has been convicted for 35 years in the United States. The extradition was, certain guarantees were probably provided by the United States. Much from a practical perspective, I think it is important for the government, for the prosecution to establish the connection with ISI, whether it's the major force, Pakistan sponsored or supported terrorist camps in Pakistan. So this case would definitely, Headley's statement would make it stronger. Nevertheless, those two dossiers, number of dossiers which have already been submitted, have taken into evidence the NI interrogation in 2010. But the reality on the ground is we need to move forward. We need to get these convictions in place.
Right.
And so I think it's the right step.
Okay, let me just get Brigadier Admiral Javed Iqbal as well in from Pakistan on this. A lot of the reason behind sort of granting this pardon is something the prosecution expects is going to help them also get concrete evidence against Pakistan's involvement, be it the ISI, be it also the planning of Lashkar-e-Taiba. David Headley says he has a lot of information to share. Is Pakistan worried about this new development because it will, in a sense, boost India's argument on terrorism?
No, I don't think Pakistan should be worried. Because if there is an evidence against terrorism, it's good for all, India, Pakistan, the whole world. So I don't think the Pakistan is, only purpose is to save somebody who did such acts, and be it Lashkar-e-Taiba, be it anybody else. And I think if Headley can lead to anything, fine. The thing ultimately, Headley may lead to Washington. because in this region the real cause of terrorism was Washington. You see, they created the seeds of terrorism, and even in the Middle East. So I think ultimately you can't say that, you see, what we did was good and what others were doing were bad.
Okay.
So I think Pakistan is not worried, and I think if ultimately India has a right to grant the, whatever as approval or whatever can help them, I don't think Pakistan should be worried, or Pakistan should really act like a guilty person.
Okay, all right. Vivek Kartu, the real cause of terror is Washington, Admiral Iqbal has just told us. David Headley's revelations to an Indian court will not only point to the ISI, but perhaps also, the work that according to Admiral Iqbal, has happened in Washington as far as creating the network and the web of terror is concerned. Your reactions?
Well, I find this argument rather strange. Everyone knows the involvement of the United States in supporting what was called the Afghan Jihad, and the consequences of that support are also there. But I find it passing strange that our Pakistani friends always try to pass the buck when it comes to terrorism. It is almost as if to say that the Pakistan state and its agencies have never been involved, that they do not have any role in this. It is other actors who have been really responsible for the spread of terrorism. As far as Headley is concerned, I think Indian investigators have had an opportunity in the past to interrogate him, and he would have given evidence and information which is there with us. But it's important to have a court of law weigh that evidence that Headley is giving so that once a court has set its seal on it, then it acquires a different weight altogether. And that is, I think, what our Pakistani friends are worried about, and therefore this passing the buck to Washington, the next time they'll say it's X, Y, Z, but never acknowledge that they have had a principal role in the spread of terrorism in our region, and that they are still pursuing with these policies.
Okay, all right. Before I, Admiral Iqbal, if you'd like to respond to that very quickly before I bring Praveen Swami in, go ahead.
Look, you see, this is there is one thing very clear, that the state policies are, governed by the people who have common interest at that time. If the Bangladesh was created and there was terrorism done in East Pakistan, then obviously India had their hand in it, and even your Prime Minister has accepted it. So naturally, the ultimate responsibility is of those people who are, are sowing the seeds.
Okay. All right.
So
Admiral Iqbal,
Washington is responsible for
that.
Just a moment.
Mr. Kartu, if I can just bring Praveen into this, I'll just come back in a second.
Just 1 second.
Okay, very quickly.
No, I'll just take a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the Pakistani army's role in the genocide in East Pakistan and what later became Bangladesh is well documented.
Okay. All right. Praveen Swami, if I can bring you in, this is not about what happened in Bangladesh and East Pakistan, or the kind of policies on the Afghan jihad on the corridors of power in Washington, as the case may be. We're talking about 26/11, a terror strike within India, which has many victims' families still within the country. This idea that, okay, David Coleman Headley might be serving out a sentence in the United States, but it's almost as though the fight to bring this mastermind, this planner here, has been given up by this pardon. Is that a message that is going to be, how do you think the victims or the families of these victims would be reacting to this?
Well, if I was a family member of, a surviving family member of someone who died in 26/11, I'd probably have mixed emotions about this. And I say mixed because in all conspiracy trials, it is common for one or more members of the conspiracy to give evidence against others. It's notoriously difficult to prove conspiracies otherwise. And in that sense, given that David Coleman Headley will more likely than not die inside prison, I don't think there's any miscarriage of justice here. Having said that, he's not going to tell anyone anything we don't know about the 2611 case. Everything he's had to say is a matter of record.
Yeah.
Yes, it will be recorded before a court. But having said that, there's nobody waiting to be tried in an Indian court. And I think it's a little naive or childish to imagine that the reason Pakistan hasn't acted against the key perpetrators and the ISI personnel involved in those attacks is because they were waiting for David Headley's testimony. Had they wanted it, they could have applied to have it from the United States months or years ago.
Right.
The truth is, in Pakistan, the Lashkar-e-Taiba was and will continue to be a holy cow. So record anything you like. I very much doubt that there's going to be action on it.